Hi, I'm Kaylee, and these are the books that I read in December. I had a lot of really great reading in December. I was trying to catch up with the Wrapped Books Challenge so that I could finish out the year having read at least 50 of the Wrapped books. So I read a whole bunch of those. And then during the Christmas break, I decided to do a reread of one of my favorite series. And since I was on vacation, I basically just read like 6 to 8 hours a day. I literally did nothing but eat and sleep and read for several days. So that was just so delightful. Before we dive into the statistics and everything that I read, I'm gonna reach back here to our Booktuber Shoutout book. And we're gonna shout out somebody randomly. Today's shout out goes to Gem of Books. I will leave a link to their channel in the description. Be sure to go over and subscribe to them. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe to this channel and give this video a thumbs up if you had a great reading month in December. And of course, follow me over on Goodreads and Instagram and all the places. I read a total of 20 books in December. I read 3 classics, 2 mysteries, 2 middle grade books, 4 children's books. I read 7 fantasy, 1 nonfiction, and 1 YA romance. As always, we're gonna start out with the classics. I read Blue Anchor Inn. This is about a guy who gets married, but he doesn't know who his wife is. The lawyers set everything up, and at the wedding, the bride wears a very thick veil so that he doesn't even know what she looks like. It's this whole legal thing where she has to get married. And then they plan that a year later, they're supposed to get a divorce. But a year later, he has not heard from the lawyers, he has not heard from her, and he's vacationing with friends at the Blue Anchor Inn, and a lady shows up, and he wonders, could that be his wife? This was just the most hilarious, ridiculous book. I loved it so much. It was so funny. And it was a really, really adorable romance. I also read The Hermit of Far End. This is about a young lady who moves into town and she keeps hearing about this guy who lives like a hermit in his big mansion, and he will not participate in any sort of social events. He has no friends, he has no visitors, and of course she gets curious and she wants to meet him. I really love this book because it's set right at the beginning of World War I. And so we get all of this history and everything. And there are a lot of layers to the plot. There are like kind of mystery and then of course the romance. And you get all the history and everything as events start to unfold to the beginning of World War I. So I just really, really enjoyed all these different layers of the story. I also read The House of 1,000 Candles. When his grandfather dies, John discovers that in the will, there's a clause where he has to stay at his grandfather's old country house for at least a year without ever leaving if he wants to inherit all the millions. The grandfather did not approve of his grandson's wandering ways, and he's trying to instill like some roots and make him appreciate his heritage or something. But when John arrives at the country house, someone tries to kill him, and he realizes that there is a much deeper mystery going on. This was a really interesting mystery adventure. There's a little bit of romance thrown in. There are just so many red herrings. I had no idea if it was one of those like the butler did it, or maybe the butler didn't do it. Is the butler a good guy? Is he a bad guy? You can't tell. Everybody is hiding secrets, and there are these weird clauses in the grandfather's will. So the whole book was just delightfully mysterious. I also read an Agatha Christie mystery, Crooked House. In this one, a young couple get engaged, but the girl refuses to acknowledge the engagement or to actually get married until they can solve her grandfather's murder. She feels like it's just a shadow hanging over her family, and she just can't get engaged until they know who did it. So the guy starts working together with the police to investigate and figure out who killed the grandfather. This was a really interesting mystery because all of the suspects have very intense personalities. They're all very different, and their personalities are just kind of larger than life. I always love that there's that psychological element in Agatha Christie mysteries, and this one was really good. The other mystery that I read was A Nun in the Closet by Dorothy Gilman. When their convent inherits a piece of property, 2 nuns are sent to travel out to the property and kind of take an inventory and see what's there and prepare the house to be sold. However, when they arrive, there are a lot of mysterious things happening. And they find a wounded man hiding in the closet, literally bleeding out. And so they help him, but he insists, no doctors, no police. So they keep his secret, they give him sanctuary. When they go into the kitchen to cook something though, they discover all of these jars labeled powdered sugar. And it is not powdered sugar, y'all. So the mystery thickens. I think that I came into this book with some high expectations because I've already read other mysteries from Dorothy Gilman that I've really, really loved. And this one just wasn't one of her best. It was still really interesting and fun and mysterious and everything, but I only ended up giving it 3 stars because in my head I was comparing it to some of her better novels, but it was still really good. I enjoyed it. The YA romance that I read was A Countess Below Stairs by Eva Ibbotson. So I've read a lot of the children's fantasy by this author, but I've never read any of her YA, so I kind of didn't know what to expect, but I ended up liking it quite a lot. This is about a Russian countess who, when they flee the Russian Revolution, they become refugees in England, and she has to take a job as a maid to the Duke. And of course, shenanigans, and they fall in love. The romance is really adorable, and I loved all the characters, but there were a few kind of problematic things. There's like this old uncle who's kind of a perv, and he likes to corner the maids in dark corners and kiss them, or pinch their bottoms and things like that. And just like, okay, what? That was gross. But everybody acts like, oh, you know, it's just old uncle. It's fine. He doesn't mean any harm. And I was like, yes, he does mean harm. That is disgusting. So I just don't understand that whole attitude with the old uncle. Like, that was just super gross. Other than that, I liked the story and it was fun. If it hadn't been for the old uncle, I probably would have given it 4 stars, but as it was, I gave it 3 stars. Another book that made it into my list of the best books that I read in 2024 was The City in the Lake. When the prince of the kingdom goes missing, it is up to the wizards to find him, except every wizard that goes searching has never come back. And so a young lady who is a wizard's apprentice decides to start her own search, but she quickly realizes that she is going to have to face her own dark past along this journey. I was absolutely fascinated with the complex characters in this story. I loved the magic system. The plot takes all these different twists and turns. The world building is so unique. I have never read anything like this before. The writing style is absolutely exquisite, and I gave it 5 stars. And the nonfiction that I read was Songs of Jesus. This is a year of daily devotions in the Psalms by Timothy Keller. So I've been reading this throughout the whole year and really enjoying just reading a psalm every day or a snippet of a psalm every day. And then there are a few little devotional paragraphs and then a little prayer that you can pray at the end of the page. I just found this so encouraging to see how the Psalms are connected to prophecies of Jesus and how Jesus is the fulfillment of everything. It was just really inspiring and encouraging to read through that throughout the whole year. I also read Wonder. This is about a boy who has a facial deformity. He just doesn't look like other people. And when he switches from being homeschooled to going to a school for the first time, he's really worried that he won't fit in, that he won't be able to make friends. This book completely broke my heart. I pretty much cried through the entire book, just like ugly cried through the entire thing because it was so beautiful and it was so heartbreaking and it was just so wonderful. I gave it 5 stars and it did end up on my list of the best books of 2024. If you haven't watched that video yet, I'll make sure that it's linked in the description so you can see all the best books that I read in 2024. The other middle grade that I read was Phillipa Fisher's Fairy Godsister. So when Phillipa Fisher kind of wishes on a star, she is sent a fairy godmother, but she's so young that it's more like she's a god sister. The problem is this fairy god sister does not want to be there. She does not like humans. She just wants to get the job done, get your wishes, and she just wants to get out of there. And of course, all the wishes go wrong, as wishes tend to do, with heartbreaking and hilarious results. I thought this was really cute, just fluffy and fun and adorable. A really sweet book. I also read the Fairy Tale Fan Club. So these are like fan letters that have been sent to fairy tale characters, and then the fairy tale characters respond. A lot of it was really silly and funny, and I did enjoy it, but I felt like the sense of humor was a little bit crass. It just wasn't quite my style of sense of humor. I ended up giving it 3 stars, but some of it was kind of like, that was slightly inappropriate for a children's book maybe. I don't know if I care for that. I feel like it was funny, but they just took it a little too far, especially for a kid's book. And I read the chapter book in Aunt Lucy's Kitchen. This is about 3 cousins who are staying with their Aunt Lucy for the summer, and they decide to start up a little bakery company, and they bake cookies and sell them, and that's how they meet the neighbors, and they discover that one of their neighbors has a crush on their Aunt Lucy. And so they figure out a way to bring them together. This was so adorable and cute, and I loved the illustrations. Just so cute. And then during the Christmas vacation, I decided to completely reread all of Twilight. So not only did I read the whole basic series of Twilight, I also read Midnight Sun, and I also read the novella about Bree Tanner. I literally just did nothing else for like 6-8 hours a day. I would just sit down and read and read and read. Usually when I have a vacation, I have to do the spring cleaning, and I'm doing this project, and I'm working on this, and this year I was just like, no, I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing any projects. I'm not working on anything. I'm not going to try to get ahead with whatever. I'm literally just going to laze around and read vampire romance fluff. And it was so wonderful. It was so relaxing. And I just enjoyed myself so much. The last 2 books in this video are books that I received from the publisher in exchange for a free and honest review. So a couple of years back, I received from the publisher one of the books in the Frank and Bean series, and my nieces went crazy for Frank and Bean. They ask to read it over and over. They think it's so hilarious because, Frank and Beans, I don't know. It's a hot dog and a bean. I don't know what to tell you. It's so cute. So I requested the publisher if they would send me the other books in the Frank and Bean series, and they did. So I read the first book, Frank and Bean, and Frank and Bean, the Stinky Feet Monster. These are perfect for my 7-year-old niece, and she thinks it's hilarious. And those are the books that I read in December. Please leave me a comment and let me know what are some of the best books that you've been reading this past month, or just a book that you really enjoyed recently. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and remember, the right book in the right hands at the right time can change the world.